I'm here with Myra Arthur. Myra, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. Yes, my name is Myra Arthur. I am a news reporter and anchor for KSAT 12 here in San Antonio.
Are there things that you think that students should be doing now to prepare if they want to get a job in the media?
An internship. That is my absolute number one. Get into an actual newsroom, see what it's really like.
Can you describe the energy of a newsroom for the uninitiated? I can imagine it must feel amazing to be at the center of all of that energy.
First things first, it is never quiet. And when it is quiet, it feels weird. We always have police scanners going in the background. There's always someone listening to what's going on to see if there's breaking news. But we work in, at least a KSAT, one large room. There are a few offices for management, but even still, doors are always open. There's a ton of communication and collaboration, which is key to what we do. Always fluid, it's always moving, and somebody's always recording something.
So you're always camera ready, right? You're 100% camera ready all the time, right?
I will not say that, but be prepared to be caught on camera. How about that?
I know you probably have some great advice for how to prepare as an interviewee. So our public relations students, for example, are going to be giving media interviews. They're going to be talking to folks in the media, and they want to be as useful as possible. They want to make sure that they're giving the reporter what they need to complete that story before deadline. What are some tips to prepare for that kind of interview process?
Nailing down what we call the nuts and bolts of whatever's happening. That's the who, what, when, where, why of whatever transpired, whatever's being covered, but also be able to convey why this is something my viewers as a reporter should be paying attention to. Because competition is fierce for attention. And every topic that we cover, every topic that I, embark on reporting on, I got to put at the very top of that and make it crystal clear, hey, this is why this is something you need to watch for the next 2 minutes. That really is key. And the better a PR professional is at working with a journalist to understand that right off the bat, the easier it makes that working relationship. In TV news, we like to get our own visuals. So we like to be the ones to get the video, to get the pictures. So making sure that those opportunities are conveyed, or if for some reason it's not possible to shoot video, how else can you help us visualize this story? That really helps, I think, a PR pro.
The principle of keeping the audience front and center, the principle of managing and thinking about audience attention and how to help that reporter get to the attention that they need from that audience, and managing the visual language. Would you say that we want to use more visual language as we answer questions?
Just communicate clearly why this is important. I mean, we're never looking for somebody to have really flowery answers or even to talk in sound bites. We just want someone to tell us the story. And then it's our job to then weave that together with the facts, the figures, the visuals, things like that. So I think just being direct, being clear about what you're trying to convey, and then understanding that the best reporter is going to have a conversation with whoever they're interviewing. So understand there's going to be follow-up questions. There may be questions that I asked that maybe we didn't discuss before, but it's based on your answer. It's based on something that I want some more clarification on. So I think having that expectation is important too.
And asking the right kinds of questions. And I know a lot of those things will cross-apply. Like, we want to consider the audience, we want to consider attention, we want to consider what's most important, we want to consider being clear and brief. What else do we need to know about asking the most powerful, the most poignant questions we can for our audience if we're in the media?
Listening is key to asking good questions. Because if you are coming into an interview with a list of questions, this is what I want to ask. You may be thinking about, okay, I asked my first one, so, okay, this is my second one. This is what I want to ask next. You need to put that list away and listen to what the person is saying. Because if you're well-versed enough on the topic, which doesn't mean you have to understand it in and out. That's probably why you're talking to whoever it is you're interviewing, right? But if you know these are the topics that I want to ask them about, these are the points I want to hit, I think that helps to just allow you to listen to their responses to make sure that, hey, they might have covered two of my questions in that one answer, or maybe their answer included some information that I hadn't thought of before. So I want to ask about that. But if you're constantly thinking, okay, this is question 1, this is 2 and 3, you might not be paying as close attention as you need to the response.
I love that, because listening is at the core of what we teach, right? Listening is almost in every single class. It's more featured in some classes rather than others. Do you have any tips for how to be a better listener?
It comes with practice and focus. And trust me, there are times when I'll be in the middle of an interview and I might catch myself thinking, oh my gosh, did I fill out that form for my children's kindergarten thing? Or did I forget to do? And then I just have to say, okay, wait, we're going to think about that later. Let's get back to what we're trying to do here. So thoughts are going to creep in. Especially in the world we live in, everyone's multitasking. So it's understandable to kind of drift your focus. But if you are aware enough to kind of rein yourself back in, I think that's a skill that comes with practice.
It sounds a lot like mindfulness.
Yes.
Being present.
Yes, really. That's true.
And like the nourishing your own curiosity, right? Like, these are things that I've been struggling with as I've started this journey of interviewing people. And I'm like, oh, I need to be more present. And sometimes that can be a real challenge. This presence doesn't always come easily to me. So you gotta I gotta be more present, gotta really think about this and be in the moment as opposed to thinking about the next question, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to do that. We do, so I anchor the 6 o'clock news Monday through Friday. A lot of times, a couple times a week, we do a live Q&A. Not scripted, it's completely ad lib. My co-anchor and I go over, hey, these are the topics I want to ask about. But again, neither one of us says, here are my questions. We have a great working relationship and know how to kind of flow with each other at this point. But we just say, you got to start or me, and then we go for it, and you have to listen in those scenarios because, again, I can't tell you how many times one of our guests has answered the question that maybe I was going to ask next. And I'm next. It's time for me to ask my question. So I got to be prepared to say, okay, we already covered that. Let's move on to another bullet point that I wanted to hit.
That sounds like a stressful situation. Just thinking, oh, goodness, I've got to be on my game. And you're on your game every single night.
That's what's interesting about broadcast news is for most of us, sort of the end of our workday, the end of our shift is when we have to be the most present, the most focused. That's when on-air time is. For some people, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, that's when they're winding things down. Nope. That's when we are ramping up. That's different from, just a lot of professionals in the world. There's no such thing as a 9 to 5 anymore, right? But that is something that you have to think about, to just be present and be focused when you have to be on.
Can you think back to when you first started and you were thrown into the fire, right? You were... What advice do you have for someone who is taking those deep breaths, centering themselves, and getting ready to deliver and perform on camera the way that you have to each night?
You're going to fail on camera. It's going to happen. Even if you are extremely talented and, feel like you know what you're doing, you will make mistakes. And for broadcast TV, it's unfortunate, but it's recorded. But everyone does when they're starting out in any field, in any industry. So know that that's okay. Of course, it's not the goal, but you're going to figure out how to learn from that. I go back and watch stuff that I did years ago, and I think, oh, gosh, I thought that was good then. Are you kidding me? But I've built upon that, and then I see how things have changed, or even I still make mistakes. So even if I fumble something or I walk away after work one day and say, that was not my best show. All right, well, what can I do to fix it tomorrow? What went wrong today that I can fix tomorrow? So it's just interesting that it's all done in front of a camera.
Failure, as we know, it's almost a cliche, right? That failure is one of the best teachers you could possibly have. I wonder if you have some examples of of times that you failed or maybe colleagues have failed that would instruct our fresh audience, the audience that is about to step into these roles and have these responsibilities?
As a journalist, you strive to get it right every time. And in breaking news, things happen really fast. And sometimes, there is this rush to, we got to be the first. I want to be the first one to even to tweet this, to, put it on social media, let alone get it on television. That's changing. At KSAT, we have had conversations about, hey, we're not going to be first at the expense of being wrong. So we want to verify this information and make sure that we got it from solid sources. And if that means that we're a little bit later than maybe the first guy, okay. Understanding if you make a mistake and you have to correct something, let's say you reported wrong information, you have to own up to it. You have to put the correction out there and, again, publicly admit, hey, I got this wrong, but here's the way in which I'm fixing that. And don't be afraid to do that, because your pride is trust me, it's not worth getting something wrong, especially when it comes to information that could be life-changing to somebody.
Being able to discern source credibility in a world of deep fakes, of improving AI, of all of these things that are making it harder and harder to discern truth from fact.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for how to tackle that real and present danger?
When I look at a source, I look for things that I know have already been vetted, knowing that this is a source that has been used previously. It's one that already has a long history of being credible. And that's not to say you're not going to run into other times when you may be the first to use this person as a source for information, but do your due diligence. Everything comes with documentation these days. Ask to see it. Let's say somebody has a problem with a local school district and they say, I work in that district and XYZ is happening. Okay, hear them out, but ask them for proof that they work with that district. Ask them for information that it's not going to end up in your story necessarily, but it's a way for you to say, hey, all right, I feel comfortable. Maybe my producer, my manager feels comfortable moving forward. So don't be afraid to ask for more than just what you see on the surface.
I love the why question. Are there certain kinds of questions that are more useful for people who are in this line of work? Certain kinds of questions that are always your go-to, you get excited to ask them?
I think always asking somebody for their personal reaction to whatever it is that you're covering is key, because I can't convey that. It didn't happen to me. I'm not in that situation. The best sound bites, the best interviews are the ones where you allow somebody to get as personal as they can about a topic, because the reporter's there to talk about what happened, where it happened, when it happened, but how whatever it is affected somebody, what it means to somebody. That's a personal experience that the reporter hasn't had. So ask them, what does this mean to you? What does, that's why when you and I were talking about Chat GPT, the first thing I asked you was, when somebody says Chat GPT, what do you think about? What does that mean to you? You got really excited about it. I think it also helps to break down some barriers between a reporter and an interviewee. Sometimes it puts people a little more at ease to be able to say, okay, this is a conversation. It's not something where I have to sit here and rattle off the who, what, when, where, why. I'm just conveying my personal experience.
You made me feel so at ease. And I'm like, how did she do that? What are her tricks? So one of them is asking that kind of question early on that isn't super technical and super jargon heavy or something like that, right? What are some other tricks that you have to help interviewees feel more at ease?
Especially in broadcast TV and broadcast news, your photographer takes a while to set up. So that's a good opportunity for you to be chatting up whoever it is that you're interviewing. And it's not fake, it's not superficial, it's not just time filler. It's a chance for them to kind of feel you out and you to do the same with them. And the more, even if it's just 2-3 minutes, the more comfortable they are, the better your interview is going to be. And it's intimidating, to stick a camera in somebody's face and say, okay, here's a mic, go. So making it a personal experience between two people, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's supposed to be a conversation. That's a great place, I think, to start.
Whenever you're struggling to make the conversation useful for your audience, are there any things that you go back to say, oh, wait, here's my core. I know your core is, how is this useful to my audience? How is this going to get the attention of my audience? What's important? Is there anything else like that we need to have at the top of our mind whenever we're asking questions?
Sometimes you just don't get a good interviewee, but I always ask somebody at the end of an interview, even if I know I've hit everything I want to talk about and then some, I always ask, is there more that I didn't, is there anything else that I didn't touch on that you think is important? That's usually always my ending question. And it gives people an opportunity, I think, to kind of wrap it up in the way they want to. And sometimes I'm surprised by what they add that we hadn't talked about. I go, oh, okay, that's actually really useful. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind too.
I know that you had your tools, you had your paper, but you weren't like writing down stuff. You were like, oh, he said this. I want to make a note to ask him about this thing he just said. And I was like, wow, she's keeping this all in her head and she's totally present in the moment with me. This is so much more conversational. I think that made me feel more at ease too. That kind of conversational tone is something that I think a lot of us, I know I do, sometimes struggle with when interviewing experts who have an expertise that maybe I lack.
I interviewed somebody yesterday about how drug prices are set, how pharmaceutical companies set drug prices, which is an extremely complicated system. I did some research before and I made all these notes and bullet points and I had my notebook while we were doing the interview, but I didn't have to look at it until the end to see, okay, what did I miss here? And I think that's because it goes back to the listening. I didn't go into it knowing his answers at all. I knew, okay, if he tells me that there's, he started talking about a subject that I wasn't quite as familiar with, I just had to remember to say, hey, I have a follow-up to that. Let's go back here for just a second. Sometimes I do use that notebook as a tool if it's a really long interview and I want to just jot something down really quick as a note to myself to ask about it. But again, just trying to listen and ask questions as they pop up for you, because you might forget once you really get into a subject.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you see whenever we're going out and we're getting a story?
If a story fails to tell me why I need to care about it, what the larger impact is, then I think that's a failure. We're competing with this at all times. If a reporter covers a story maybe that's about a big event coming to San Antonio, as an example, and they don't really tell me, okay, well, what is there a larger economic impact? That's a missed opportunity. And then also when it comes to doing a live shot, doing a live report, tell me what you see. I mean, I think sometimes people think that it needs to be this really fancy, well-produced, well thought out. That's the goal, of course, but sometimes breaking news happens and you get there and then in 10 minutes you're on TV. Just being able to say, hey, this is what's going on behind us, and admitting what you don't know yet. Viewers want to know that you're trying to work for them. There's a reason they need to pay attention to what you're saying, because if you don't have the answer now, you're working to get there.
This kind of storytelling is unique, but I know that the lessons about storytelling specifically could be incredibly instructive to other disciplines too. So as a reporter, as you're looking at this piece and that piece, and you're ordering things and you're reordering things and you're trying to make the most compelling story, do you have any paradigms or frameworks that help you to tell the story? Like show, don't tell, right? But I know there's other paradigms and frameworks that are probably really useful in this line of work.
Show me your best stuff first. In broadcast news, you get such a limited amount of time to convey a story. I mean, we're talking a minute 30, maybe 2 minutes to tell me your full story. And you may not be able to fit in the whole thing. For example, I used to cover City Hall, and going to city council meetings and understanding policies and presentations, it's a lot. There are a lot of pieces of information thrown at you, but I would have to decide, okay, at the end of the day, out of this whole presentation, this is the most important part. the part that says the price we pay for utilities is changing and here's why and when and by how much. Maybe not a look at the entire budget. That's the part I'm going to focus on. Being able to find the most impactful nugget in your story and know that you want to include that, you can build a story around that. And in terms of how it looks, how it sounds, starting with your best stuff first is key. Don't save some really emotional element until the very end, or introduce me to somebody that is just a really good character or an interesting person. Show them to me first. Show me the best video you have right off the top.
I think it cross applies to so many different things. Like when we're trying to build stories in so many different disciplines, it's the most important thing and the most emotionally resonant thing sometimes. Can you talk about how you balance that tension between importance and emotion in storytelling?
There's fact and then there's feeling, right? Any story we do is a combination of those two things. That's what an interviewee can do, is convey to you however what they experienced made them feel, what it means to them, what the impact is. And then a reporter weaves in the facts, making it clear why I should care as a viewer. People care about other people. Even if it's not somebody they've met, it's not somebody who lives on their side of town, giving somebody something that they may be able to either identify with or just, we like to say, a real person. So not an official necessarily. They're often very key to your story, but if there is somebody who has a real experience about whatever issue it is that you're covering, build that story around them. Let them convey why it's important, because so often human emotion is what is going to draw somebody in and make them say, hey, if they feel this way about whatever happened, what could it mean to me?
And that authenticity just adds so much richness and detail to that story, doesn't it? Sometimes we watch the news, it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. There's a tragedy, eyes tear up. How are these reporters, how are these anchors keeping their composure in this news? Like, do they have some sort of secret? I know that some of this has to be compartmentalization and professionalism, right? But there's got to be more to this story of how people are able to not just straight up cry on television, right? Because there's some really negative stuff out there.
Some of it is probably some unhealthy practices. I mean, but I do think that you're right. Compartmentalizing it is part of it. I also think, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for, other reporters or other journalists, but sometimes you just kind of know that this is happening in my line of work. This is my job for today. That sort of puts a small barrier in some ways up for me, knowing that I have an end goal. It doesn't mean that I don't feel it. I don't acknowledge that something happened is extremely horrible. But then there are other times that I think people want to know that we're human too, that you as a journalist are human. And if you're somewhere where there's been something really emotional happening and it's affected you, say that. Say, hey, it's been really tough to be out here and watch this grieving family go through this. The worst example I can think of lately is the shooting in Uvalde. And the day that happened, my co-anchor and I were on the air for hours. I cried. I mean, I cried on live TV and I got choked up. I think it's at that time, everybody was feeling the exact same thing. And so it's important and appropriate, I thought, to acknowledge that and to say, hey, this is something that's affecting all of us. We're learning about it just like you are, and we're grieving just like you are. My co-anchor at one time got choked up too, and just afterwards, after we got off the air, we just gave each other a really big hug, said, okay, let's figure out what we do for the next show. How do we move this information forward so that we're doing our jobs? I joked about unhealthy methods of dealing with this kind of stuff, but you need to take care of yourself. And especially after Uvalde, our company was awesome and brought in people for us to talk to, offered opportunities for everybody to get help or have an outlet in whatever way. That's really helpful in making sure you can do your job at the end of the day.
I feel like the generation that is entering, even in the media, has a better finger on the pulse of mental health issues because they're more able to talk about it. They're more willing to seek help. They get it. They get that mental health is important.
It feels like. And there wasn't that acknowledgement of mental health, I think, when you and I were in their shoes. So that's the great thing.
That example was so powerful because it was in the moment. I wonder if later on it just hits you in the gut and you feel it. Does that kind of like ripple effect ever happen whenever you're in the mix so much?
I think so. In a newsroom, there's such a sense of team, at least in the newsroom that I'm blessed to be in. There's a sense of community. And in that example that I gave of Uvalde, everybody was going through that at some level, whether you were in Uvalde that day, whether you went in the coming days or weeks, whether you never left the station and were working for our web team, everybody felt it. We all kind of were checking up on each other in the days after. I mean, everybody saw when I cried and I teared up and my voice cracked on TV, and they asked like, "Hey, are you doing okay?" And that's so helpful. Then I returned the favor. "Yeah, how are you?" Also having a good support system outside of work. I got home and my husband knew what all had happened that day. It was extremely late. He was basically asleep, but we got up and we talked about it for a little bit. And I think just being able to find kind of an anchor outside of your world of news is helpful. Very helpful.
I love that. And I love that you have social support and community that is so powerful because so many don't. We have social media, we have loneliness on the rise, we have so many reasons to disconnect or to connect in a way that isn't as authentic with our fellow humans, right? So it's wonderful to have that kind of support. I'm really glad to hear that.
Whatever you pursue, the company matters and the climate matters, the culture matters. You hear about stuff like that, like, oh, the culture in your office, but at the end of the day, it's a job. Yes and no. I mean, you spend a good amount of your life doing this job. Take that into consideration when, that's some advice I would give. Consider that when you make a choice. And if you have the opportunity to do an internship, maybe you experience what that's like, what you don't like, or maybe, you're lucky enough to find a place you hope to be one day. That would be awesome.
You mentioned internships, and what do you see as mistakes that people are making beyond recognizing that they're going to fail and just getting over that, being okay with that, learning from those mistakes?
When I was doing an internship, I don't think that I was maybe as open to trying out everything as I wish I had been. It's intimidating. You're working with these people that know what they're doing. They're in front of a camera every day. And then they say, "Hey, you want to do it?" And you go, I think so. I think that's why I'm here, but I don't really know if I really want to do this. But seizing as many opportunities as you can in that internship would not be a mistake. That would be success. And I think even if you want to be on air, go work with producers for a couple of days. Even if you want to be behind the scenes, go out with a reporter. Find out what their day is like. Because the better you can understand all the working parts and all the ways that those different positions have to collaborate, the better equipped that you'll be to actually start doing this and getting a paycheck for it.
What other things can people do to create opportunities as opposed to just saying yes to the opportunities? How can someone create that kind of opportunity in a news organization?
It's doing. And that applies to so many different things. The more you get out there and actually start working through the process, you have to start somewhere, right? With anything. You'll find out here's what works, here's what doesn't, and you'll kind of create your own process, right? Every newsroom has editorial meetings where, we have several a day where we decide here's what we're going to pursue, an update on it. Okay, here's where we are now. This is where we go next. And everyone is part of that process, from reporters to producers to anchors, managers, photographers. And don't be afraid to pick the brains of people who've been doing this a really long time because they have seen things change dramatically in this business. Using them as a guide is an excellent resource.
I love that, being able to lean on that experience in a way that is meaningful. I wonder what shapes those stories in that editorial conversation, in that newsroom, when you're all around the table and someone is saying this and someone's saying, no, this is important. What are the things that are always your North Star for the entire team, for the entire organization? And then what are your personal North Stars?
For me, it's again, it goes back to keeping in mind, is this something we should cover because it impacts people, because people need this information to make a decision about their daily lives? Is it affecting more than just this one person, or does it have the ability to do so? And then also having critical thinking. I mean, that, especially with all the different information that comes at us every single day, thinking about, okay, yeah, this happened and we're going to report what happened, but why did it happen? Is there something that allowed for it to happen? Asking questions just beyond what you need to get that report on the air, to make sure people understand the who, what, when. Be intentional about trying to find out what the next layer of the story is, because that may give you a story for another day. Maybe it's not today, but it's something for you to follow up on tomorrow. I know in research that we've done, that's key to viewers. They want to know that you're not just one and done. You're not just going to tell me about this today and then act like it never happened. You're going to come back to that and tell me if there's more that I need to know.
And why sounds like it's so important.
Oh, yeah.
That why?
Uh-huh.
Why do I need to know that? Why is this important?
We're inundated with all these different pieces of info every day. So we got to filter some stuff out, right? I mean, there's so much that we have to think about just with our families and our personal lives. Where does what you're telling me as a reporter fit into that? The clearer and the more intentional you can be as a reporter, don't make a viewer work to understand that. That's what I'm here for. That's what a reporter's here for. Tell me what the impact of this is, so that I know, okay, I need to file that in the things that I want to pay attention to.
And even when you're doing something like investigative, where you're trying to unravel a mystery and help the listener or the viewer to follow a thread, you're still answering why questions early and often.
Oh, yeah.
You're just asking more, right?
Right. I worked with our investigative team for a while. Now, years later, I've moved on to this Explain segment we do, and it's not investigative, but it's long-form reporting. Your typical news story is a minute 30-ish. I've got 7 minutes to play with in this Explain segment, which is like the biggest piece of real estate for local news. I think there's an appetite for that, for people to say, okay, I saw this headline, but I'm pretty sure there's more to that story, or I wonder what about X that you didn't cover the day of. It's an opportunity for us to look at a lot of different angles, and there's a challenge to that, though, to marry all of that together, really keeping that thread going throughout of here's why I'm showing you this angle, but this is why it's something that you should consider too, or this is why I think it's important for you to know about.
It seems like a different skill set almost. This longer form where you're doing more of a deep dive, you have so much more opportunity for depth. What other things in that KSAT Explains area are most important to keep front of mind as compared to whenever you're doing your normal anchoring?
I try to do things that I know people are talking about. Like there's already some sort of baseline curiosity there, whether that be something like ChatGPT or drug prices are created, or after Uvalde happened, we did an Explains on red flag laws. It's a conversation and a topic that comes up, unfortunately, after every mass shooting. I looked at, okay, Texas doesn't have those, but what laws do we have on the books that allow a gun to be removed from someone, and what does that process look like? And then we compared it to a state like Florida that does have a red flag law. There's a lot of meat on the bones there, so we needed something like Explains to flesh that out. And I knew it was something that people are already talking about this, and they're going to continue talking about it. So let's give somebody a real baseline comparison to say, instead of just a political talking point, here's what's actually on paper in Texas. Here's what's actually happening versus what is not. That's kind of a guiding principle for the ways I like to approach explains.
I try to be as objective as possible. I try to teach to the middle, even though the middle shifts over the years. I've been doing this since 2004, and the middle has shifted so much back and forth between left or right. It's sometimes difficult to know where the middle might even be whenever you're trying to not alienate one side of the aisle or the other side of the aisle. How do you keep that in check? How do you know where to place the language in the story to make sure you're not alienating listeners on one side of the political aisle or the other?
In that example, that's why I wanted to stick with, here is what exists. This is what it's law. It doesn't matter if you're blue or red or somewhere in the middle. This is it. I knew with a subject like red flag laws, just those 3 words are enough to tune some people out. The question we wanted to answer is, what laws exist in Texas that allow a gun to be removed from someone? I think looking at it from that angle is enough to get people who are very interested in gun rights and very interested in more information about something like further regulation to come to the table. And I also, if I can avoid it, I don't like to include people who are taking a side one way or the other. Politicians, sometimes that is enough to turn people off. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. I mean, I need an elected official to talk about X, Y, or Z. But if there is a way to, like in that particular example, I talked with a probate judge who sees emergency detentions and mental health commitments. He deals with them all the time. So he is in a courtroom. He is actively signing off on commitments. He's also actively signing off on when guns can be returned to somebody. So this is somebody who is not, he's not arguing one way or the other. He's saying, here's what's happening. Here's what I see every day. I try to mold it that way so that you're not just presenting 2 people with opposing views.
We have so much more polarization, right? We have so much more lack of willingness to reach across the aisle and work with the other side. And that's dangerous for democracy. And as a reporter, when you're balancing these things and trying to give something like equal time, language is so value laden. How do you even begin to wrap our head around equal time and equal voice to different issues whenever there's such a bigger divide than there used to be?
You make sure that you do your due diligence and you say, all right, if this is the person who is arguing for X, Y, and Z, I got to find the person who wants A, B, and C. Some people may roll their eyes at this, but you have to be unbiased because, some people may say, well, does that even exist anymore? You're a human. You've got your own opinions, but that's not in your reporting. Knowing how to get both sides, sometimes it doesn't happen. You may approach one side that says, I'm not interested, but you have to acknowledge, hey, yes, we presented this side of the argument. We tried over here to get this group's reaction. They weren't interested. You acknowledge that. You say that. I think transparency for what we do is really important to viewers. They want us to pull back the curtain and say, we called 4 times today. We actually called 30 minutes before airtime. We still didn't get anywhere. Kind of acknowledging that gives some credence to your efforts, but you do the best you can to be balanced. You're going to make some people mad because they don't like the topic you're covering in the first place, but that doesn't mean, of course, that it's not worth pursuing.
I imagine you have seen bad public relations crisis management. The sky is falling, things are happening, and the company is just completely unaware or unable to respond to a crisis where they need a skilled public relation professional to guide them on that journey. Can you think of some mistakes that you've seen where companies or organizations or even nonprofits might have had missteps with the media and how those could be avoided?
A big mistake is ignoring it. Ignoring whatever it is, pretending like it didn't happen, not responding to requests for comment. I mean, even saying, hey, we cannot provide a statement at this time, at least that is some sort of response. But I will tell you, if we're trying to get questions answered and no information is provided, we're going to try again, and then we're going to try again, and then we're going to keep trying. And the more it's just the issue's basically not acknowledged, sometimes I think that gives it a longer life. If we have a chance to say, maybe whatever PR pro can't say, here's exactly what happened. Here's answers to all your questions, but they're at least willing to say, all right, I can talk to you about these specific bullet points and we'll go from there, or providing some kind of statement. That acknowledgement, I think, is key.
That's the first part of what we would teach, right? We would teach people to acknowledge it, to own it, and to address what they're going to do, right? Have you seen people failing to address how they're going to solve the problem more often or less often?
Sometimes, yes, a company, an entity will acknowledge something, but the statement they send you is, the line we see all the time is, the safety of our customers is our number one priority. Every company, I hope, thinks that, but if it doesn't even address at all what happened, even if it's just vague, it's like, okay, well, did somebody just copy and paste me that from whatever handbook they have and hit send? I understand things can't always be specific. Things can't always be answered, especially if you're talking about, for example, like a personnel issue or proprietary information. But being as specific as you can be and as forthright as you can be is key.
I love that. It's so important now more than ever. What is the most important or core skill that people need to work on developing today to prepare for a job and being a professional in the media industry?
We did talk about listening earlier. That is a key bullet point I would tell people in any interview. Make sure that you're paying attention to the answers, because you might have a follow-up question. Being able to find that nugget to say, okay, it's maybe not the whole story, because I don't have time, especially in TV, to fit it all in. Or maybe you do, let's say in a web article or in print, but you're going to build that story around this specific component that you think will resonate most with people. So finding your angle, making sure that you understand how to convey the importance of something really in a conversational way, because that's important for us, specifically in broadcast. Writing for broadcast is very different than writing a press release, than writing print. What I write in my broadcast story and then translate to my web article for someone to actually read is very different. We try to be as conversational as possible on TV.
Because conversationality, that's something that's kind of harder to teach. You have to practice that, don't you? You have to really practice having conversations that are meaningful, right?
Yeah, you really do. Some examples I've given some people starting out or interns that we've had in our newsroom. Give me your live, what we would call a live tag, right? Your live report. Go ahead and do it. Okay, now I'm going to take your notebook or your phone, and now just tell it to me. Just tell me like I'm your mom, like I'm your best friend. Those two versions can be very different. And the conversational one, that's the one that we want, because that's the one that is more relatable, right? And that's what draws people to pay attention.
That authenticity. And you see that in social media, you see that in podcasting, you see that across media fields, as the drive towards a more authentic communication experience for the audience has been on the rise and is on the rise compared to maybe the more stuffy professional communication that might turn people off, right?
That's very true. I mean, I think we're all trying to find ways to be more relatable. It's why a lot of us have videos of behind the scenes things, social media things. People want to know what happens outside of a 30-minute or hour-long newscast. What do we do all the time? That's part of that authenticity.
How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about you, or they want to connect with you online?
On Twitter, I'm KSAT Myra. And then social media, Myra_Arthur. And then my inbox is always open. So Arthur, it's MARTHUR @KSAT.com. So I love to get viewer emails and requests and things like that. So hit me up.
I was listening when you said we need to always ask, was there anything I didn't ask?
You have to know it's changing and it's evolving, and it's been evolving ever since I got started doing this. Really right now, because of streaming, because people are changing the way that they watch TV traditionally, it's changing what we do. We're meeting people right here. We're not waiting for 5 o'clock, for 6 o'clock, because, show of hands, how many people are busy at 5 and 6 o'clock or have time for appointment TV anytime? We have a lot of things that we pursue for on-demand videos, or maybe we gave you this story at 6 o'clock, but we have this whole other well-produced segment that you can find on YouTube, or making sure that all of our newscast coverage is available on YouTube. So that's really changing what we do. And I just think that anybody who gets into journalism should be okay with change, because I can't imagine what it's going to be like once the people that this podcast is for are out there. They're the ones giving the podcast for the advice for the newbies at some point.
I love that you mentioned adaptation, because now I'm like, what are some adaptation skills that we can focus on? Because that is such an important skill set in a world that is changing so quickly with new technologies and new strategies for reporting.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first started having to write web articles to accompany our stories, and we were all like, oh my gosh, we have to put something on the internet. But, now, of course we would do that. Now we're finding ways to add more to that. How can we put video? How can we put all the documents that we use to create this story? How do we provide that online too? It's rolling with it. It's understanding that your job description and the demands placed on you every day could change. You just have to be open to adaptation, to evolution.
Myra Arthur, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your insights and your time.
Well, thank you so much for listening. And if anybody has any questions, I let you know how to connect with me. So I'm always happy to help answer for the next generation, the future of this business. So good luck out there.